Today I am going to do things a bit differently. I haven't written a story as such, but because it's Burns night, I want to share a Scottish story with you. A story that you might not have heard of before, and I have it in this book here. Now, just to give it context, this is a book that I picked up in Scotland when I was on Dundee. And at the time, I was with my Scottish girlfriend, and we were walking around Overgate Shopping Centre, and I decided to pop into W.H. Smith's, where all the books were, and they had a section for Scottish writers, and so I gave it a nosy. And this particular book stood out to me, by a Stuart McHardy, entitled Speakin O'Dundee, Telt Aroun the Toun. And when I picked it up and I looked inside, I see it was all written in Scots lingo, in the way how they speak, and more specifically how Dundee people speak. It was a collection of folk tales that may have been told orally in the local tavern for generations, and this man put it all together. It is one of my favourite books, and it's a book that I will always go back to if I need to redevelop my Scottish accent. So, ladies and gentlemen, hold your scotch, get the fire going, sit back and relax, and most importantly, enjoy the tale I'm about to tell. Wallace in Dundee. Now, one of the great heroes of Scottish history is William Wallace, that led the resistance to the invasion by the English King Edward I, or Langshanks as he was kent. Historians for some reason have cried the battles of this period the Wars of Independence, which seems to me a right bloody cheek, for I'm no aware that Scotland was ever a part of England. What kind of numpties cry a war to repel invaders, a war of independence? It was nothing either, nor a war of resistance, and don't let anybody tell you any different. Now, Langshanks had been gassed leaked when he was asked to help decide on the contesting claims of the various aristocrats that thought they should be King of Scots. Although the guise of being a disinterested judge, the English king had no intention of doing anything either, nor annexing Scotland. Getting his scribes to invent spurious claims of feudal superiority, he had come north with an army and took over many of the castles due to the boot the land. Now, Scotland had been a country long before England came into existence, but the claimants to the throne were that eager to push the own claims that they had let this foreign king come in and take over control of Scotland. And it was here that Wallace showed his mettle. Like many Scots, he hated the English taking over his land, and even as a young lad, he wasn't the kind that would hide his feelings. Because of this, he had been sent for his hame over in Ayrshire to bide with an auntie at Kilsplindy in the Curse of Gowrie, and was attending the college in Dundee when things kicked it off. At this time, in the 1290s, Dundee, like much of the country, was under English occupation. The English governor of the town, Selby by name, was biding with all his troops in the castle that used to stand around where St Paul's Cathedral now sits. You can imagine the resentment folk felt at the invaders, and William, still in his teens, but already a powerful and courageous man, was like everybody else, frustrated at the lack of any real leadership among the Scots nobility, as they cried themselves. Now, William was in the town a day with a bunch of his friends when they came across Selby's son, that was around the same age as William. It seems he was an arrogant something of a lad that generally wandered around the town as if he owned the place, and usually with twa or three of his father's soldiers by his side. Now this day he picked it on William. It seems he noticed that William had a rather fine looking dagger on his belt with a fancy sheath, and the young Englishman took a fancy to it. He demanded that William hand it over, as such a fine weapon was far over good for a common Scots lad to have in his possession. No, no, replied William, you can't have it. We'll see about that, you Scots dog, shouted Selby, and grabbed it at the dagger and pounded at it for a sheath. As he yanked the blade of the weapon clear of the sheath, William grabbed at his wrist. There was a bit of a struggle, and it seems that Selby tried to stick William with his own knife. Our hero was having none of that, and he turned the blade around and stuck it straight into the young Englishman's heart. As he fell to the ground, the soldiers with him came at Wallace, who turned it and ran through the streets. The soldiers came after him, but while the local folk stood aside to let William pass, they got in the road of the soldiers, slowing them down. So it was that William turned it into Castle Street, a wee bit ahead of his pursuers, what were crying on either soldiers that were in the streets to come and help them. He ducked it into a tavern where he kented the landlady. The soldiers are after me, he said, making a move to gang out through the back door. No, no, laddie, dinna run. Sit ye down by the fire there, the wifey said. As he sat down, the landlady threw an old reed gown over his shoulders and put a woman's headdress on him and handed him a spinning wheel. Now just ye keep spinning that rock there and pay nae attention to anything else. This was just done when the door burst open and in came a handful of soldiers with drawn swords in their hands. Have you seen a young man, a tall fella? Demanded the lead soldier, ignoring the old woman sitting by the fire. Well, I thought I heard somebody out the back a minute or two ago, the landlady replied. Straight away, the soldiers headed to the back door of the tavern and outside. Bide where ye are, laddie, she said. Just carry on as if nothing's wrong. Sure enough, the soldiers were back in a few minutes and headed back into the street. Waiting till the steer had died down a bit, William made his way back to his lodgings as night fell. The following day, a proclamation was read out by the soldiers in the town square. All young men between the ages of 15 and 20 had to report to the governor at the castle. William sneaked out of the town that very day back to Ayrshire, and from then on his road was settled. It wasn't long after that he gathered a bunch of like-minded lads and the battle to rid Scotland of the English invaders was on. It might have been near a quarter of a century till the matter was settled, and the war between the two countries went on for a long time after yon. But the first blow for freedom was struck in Dundee.